Welcome back to Diary of a Medium, Stories from the Spirit World podcast. I'm super excited to have Kathy Lather here with me as my special guest today. So Kathy is a psychic reader, healer, and a spiritual teacher who works closely with the angelic realm to help people bring more love, happiness, and security into their lives. Although she has always been spiritually connected, it wasn't until just before her 40th birthday when she first encountered Archangel Michael that her connection fully awakened in a way that she could consciously understand and share. And from that moment on, the angels became an active and guiding presence in her life and her work. Through readings, healings, and workshop, Kathy supports others in discovering their own spiritual path and the depth of guidance available to them. She is also the author of The Afterlife Mentor, a psychic medium's practical, emotional, and spiritual guide to death. It's a book born from years of answering the same heartfelt questions about life after death. Guided by what she has been shown, taught, and come to know through her spiritual work, Kathy wrote this book to bring comfort, clarity, and a deeper understanding of both life and death. And her passion is helping people feel supported, not only in this lifetime, but in understanding the journey beyond it. Welcome, Kathy. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you. It is so wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your beautiful podcast. And thank you for letting me talk about my book. It is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, you are so welcome. Thank you so much for gifting me a copy of the book. I am, as I just said, so far through it now and actually just loving your real life perspective, on what you share on your own experiences, right?
Yeah, I tried to make it as easy as possible to read because most people I feel that have the book gifted to them or purchase the book, it's normally when they are in grief, where they are grieving for a loved one. And so you don't need to be loaded down with too much information. You just really need the basics so that you can know that your loved one is still there. They've just changed form. So
Yes,
that
yeah.
was the intention of the book.
Of the book. Beautiful. And I'm going to get you to share a bit more about your book later, but I'd love to kind of circle back around with you to like how our paths crossed. And so we'd met, I think at the spiritual church, right? There was something there we attended together. Is that right? In Broad Beach?
Yes, we tend to pop into, I do enjoy that beautiful spiritual church, and I do tend to pop in from time to time. And it's always lovely to catch up with other psychic mediums such as yourself.
Then our paths crossed again a little while later up at a little get together. And it's interesting that you had mentioned like you don't normally attend or go to things like that, but you were drawn to go there kind of that day. And I sort of felt the same too.
Well, we had a lovely catch up at that day. It was great. We got wonderful food. We got an awesome place to sit with a beautiful view. We got to talk all things spiritual. But no, I'm
Yes.
very much what I would class as a hermit. I don't go to a lot of spiritual things. I really need to feel drawn to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I find that it can kind of backfire on you. Obviously, you're a beautiful spiritual person. You're very open to talking to other psychic mediums and enjoying their work. Some other
Yes.
people aren't as kind, and they can be quite negative to other people who work in the same industry, which is quite sad. But you've always been a very uplifting person. You've always encouraged people to be the best that they can be because you actually understand the real of it. Everyone is on their own spiritual journey. Everyone, once they understand how to connect to their own energy and the energy around them, how to connect
Yes.
in with their own spiritual team, that's when
Yes.
life gets better. Whereas it's interesting that people who claim that they're very spiritual have a lot of issues with chatting to other spiritual people to involving them in their life. So it's very nice that you run this podcast and you share other people and other people's work. So it
Oh,
just shows
thank
how
you.
open-minded you are and how you understand more and you get it. if that makes sense.
Yeah, and this is interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about energy and feeling the energy of like being drawn to go to certain places or certain things or be around certain people, and I agree with you. Not often. I mean, not often, but often spaces that feel like they should feel aligned don't feel aligned, right? They don't feel inviting. And certainly on my journey, I've encountered that too, 100%. I've been kicked out of a few spiritual groups in my time. And I even got refunded some money and rejected from a workshop that I booked by a psychic medium locally to us that I was basically told I wasn't welcome. So that was interesting. So I agree. And I think, for me, it's that situation when that happened to me was more about me leaning in and going, what do I need to know about this particular space? Like, I obviously wasn't meant to go. There's a reason why this has happened, right? So, when you can get to that spiritual led life where you can take everything as feedback of something you need to know, it's actually a very beautiful place to be.
It is. And everything has lessons. And when you're in the right space, when you understand how to connect with the energy around you that's going to help you, the lessons aren't as harsh as what they are. Back in the earlier days, everything was a drama with me. Oh my God, rejection. People don't like me.
Yes.
Guess what? No, nowadays, because you have a better understanding, you love self a lot more, you can set these boundaries. You don't have to be told by other people what you should be doing in life. And that's what makes, and I think that's why I'm very blessed. I am very busy. I'm very grateful for that. People do refer me. And I think that's all a big part of it. When you really grow into self and you know self and you work with your team, your spiritual team, it makes life so much easier and good things do come to you. So
100%, I love that. And you know what I realized? Rejection is actually projection. That was my lesson out of that situation that happened, because you feel, I've 100%, did I feel rejected? Yeah, the little girl in me was just like, oh my God, not again, like that kind of feeling. And I feel like sometimes moving through your spiritual journey can feel like that, because you meet people and you're like, oh, like I found my people because I'm spiritual and they're spiritual, and then you realize they're only here for a season and not a season or a reason, right? Not long term.
I prefer to be in my own little space.
Yes, a little thing. Yeah, I know. And I think learning discernment, and that's what I always say to people, even people that reach out to work with me. I always say to them, like, you need to feel for the fact that if I am the fit, because often people say to me, like, well, is this a good space for me? Like, will I learn? And I'm like, well, you have to also use your discernment of, am I the right mentor for you? I'm the right person. You're the same. You mentor people, you run workshops, and it's like, you just have to feel the energy. I'm not for everyone. I know that. And I'm okay with that now, right? I'm okay with that now. And that's the biggest thing. Yeah. So I guess let's loop all the way back around, because I would love to tell our listeners how you ended up being here, the author of this beautiful book talking about the afterlife. And you kind of shared with me about your nana was someone that kind of cultivated, your abilities and your gifts, and, she kind of seen something in you before maybe you even recognize that yourself. So I'd love you to share with our listeners, because the one thing I love to share is how people got here, because everyone's story is so freaking different. Yeah. And I know that when people listen to these episodes, they recognize something in themselves that makes them think, oh my God, like that was me and I didn't put the pieces together, right?
Yeah. Well, I love talking about my nana. I'll talk about Mary King as long as you want me to. She always referred to myself and my sister as Fae. Now, as a little tiny child, I had no understanding what the word Fae meant. Yeah. Nana was from England. And she used to always make us play cool games. So we were always playing like Snap, Memory. She even got the old blackjack out every now and then. She was always making us guess who was on the phone when it was ringing, or who's knocking at the door. So she was always making us very much use our intuition without even realizing that we were doing it. And I think she did it because my father was never really into this. He thinks my career is very interesting. He's very proud of me, but he's always like,
You should have got a proper job, Kathy. Yeah.
that's right. My mother is always telling me that she's very jealous because she doesn't have the same gifts, but I believe she's very good at remote viewing because as a teenager, she always knew when I was in the wrong place. She could track me down like there was no tomorrow.
That's me.
But
yeah, with my kids. Yeah.
But my nan, she was beautiful. And we used to spend quite a bit of time with her because mum worked. So she was always making sure that we were using our intuition and using our gifts, even to the point where she would bring photo albums down and she would get us to look through photo albums of people I'd never met. And she'd show me a photo of a person and she'd say, oh, tell me a story about this person.
Wow.
And so then you were intuitively connecting in with the energy through the photo and you would be telling them stories. My nan was very good at understanding when people were ill or when people had passed. So she always knew when she had to connect with family in England and family who moved to America. She always knew when something was wrong. She knew when her son had been in a car accident and it was just down the road. She knew automatically something was wrong. She woke up with that fear. Because she encouraged us, she always kept our clairs open. Very much, we've never really shut that down, I suppose. She used to always tell people I was a very good storyteller, but with the things that I used to come out with, as you know, 9 times out of 10, it was the truth, what was happening in that person's life. Or you'd be telling them who's standing behind them and they'd just look at you like you were slightly insane. An 8-year-old girl telling you that, Bob's standing behind you. So she always encouraged that. She never told us to be quiet or that was rude or shush. So that was how I kept my clairs open. I did kind of shut them down when I was in primary school. I always got to, I don't know about you, but when people are not well, I tend to see them in faded out or black and white colours. So when people are going to cross over.
Yeah.
So I could remember in primary school there was a young girl there who was not well. I mean, I was always polite to her, but I didn't go into her group. I didn't play with her because I knew by her energy she wasn't going to be here for long and I knew that would affect me. So therefore I made sure I can remember my mother always saying, why don't you go and play with, I won't use her real name, Mary Jane, but I just always said to her, oh, she's washed out. I don't like it. She's fading. So mum would just go, okay. With high school, when you got into all the horror movies, when you started watching Poltergeist and Amityville and, all those.
Not Amityville, it was my favourite thing to watch. Yeah.
Oh my God. I did kind of start to shut it down because when people used to come to see me, I used to see them how they passed. So I used to see a lot of not so pleasant sights.
Okay. Yes.
So I did kind of turn that down. And in saying that, it was my grandma who always you would go to and talk to, and she would always be the one who'd give you advice on what to do and how to do it and the best way to do it. She was very much into faith, very much, I say she's a churchgoer, and even when she was in retirement, she used to watch the services on Sunday because she loved singing. But I don't think she was so much into religion, but she knew she was smarter. She understood about universal source, God, divine energy. So she was very into faith and she taught us that. She taught us to do our prayers. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And it was all those little prayers that she taught us before meals, before bed, that actually kept me safe all through my life without even realizing it, because you still say these prayers. People think I'm odd when I say prayers. I do believe in God. I believe in universe, source, divine energy. Not so much in religions, sorry. But that's fine, I think. I think everyone should be able to divine where they want to go and how they want to live their life. But no, Nana was a big part of me keeping myself open spiritually. And then, of course, I did go and get a real job in the Commonwealth Bank after leaving school.
We've all had the muggle jobs, right?
And when I had my daughter, I didn't want to go back to work full time. So I just said to my husband, I can make grocery money, work at home, stay with my daughter, which is all I wanted to be. I just wanted to be a mum. And that was the real start of my career as a psychic medium. So
That's so good.
that was, all by referral. So it's been an interesting time.
Journey, yeah. And I kind of love how, you said there that, you believe in God, you say your prayers and things like this, because a lot of people think, if I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. Do you know what I mean? There's like, it feels like you're supposed to be one or the other.
Yeah.
And I love that you kind of are saying like, it's okay to bring that together, like in whatever way works for you. I have a lot of people I talk to whose families are like so heavily religious that they're frightened to come out of the spiritual closet. They're frightened to talk about these abilities and the things that happen to them because it doesn't align with a particular religion. And I think what we have to understand is that we can have both. Like we can have both. It's okay. There's no law or rule, that you can't have a bit of this if you're religious. It's just all about balance and finding what really works for you. Like I think I had the opposite because I was brought up very unreligious, very, very much like my mum actually was raised Catholic, went through like school with the nuns and all that stuff, and just did not have, as you can imagine in those days, a very good experience with that kind of education. Plus she was the youngest of like 10 kids, so she said like if one of my siblings like was not doing the right thing, whatever, she used to get it down the line. Do you know what I mean? Like she was the last one, so it would like go down the line. And so I think that I was kind of raised to, as we are, like by our parents, like be influenced about religion in a negative way. And then I married a man who was Catholic, whose mum had the keys to the church and played the organ at our wedding, right? I truly believe he was sent to show me that religion could be balanced, in that way, which was beautiful. And his mum she used to say things to me like, "Oh, Emma, don't say things like that," when I was like, "Oh, this thing," she was like, but it was really beautiful because we respected each other's point of view. I respected her Catholic faith, and she respected that I just had weird shit that used to happen to me that I used to tell her about that made her uncomfortable. But there was a very, very mutual love and respect between us, which is really important, I think, as well for a lot of people, because when they step into this, if they come from religious families, it can be quite like overwhelming for them and very isolating as well, because they can't talk to anyone about it. I love that your nana just kept you really open and did all those like little things with you. And you say fair, so I'm guessing is there an Irish connection there with that?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that, because obviously the Irish, they talk about the fairies, aren't there, that live like on the land.
Fairies are everywhere. You've got all your different, I suppose you class them as species, but different types of fairy. So you to invite fairies into your garden, just place a fairy statue on your windowsill, and they know that it's a safe place to come in, and then you'll watch magical. It always amazes me because we always had the mushroom rings in our garden because we very much were. Obviously, my mother, being brought up by my nan, she was open to this in small ways. So she must have invited the fairies to make our lives a little bit more magical. You always find the doors in the trees and things like that.
Yes.
And my husband, who is an atheist, so he's learnt a lot living with me. He now respects what I do because he's walked through so many apparitions and things like that.
Yeah.
But he's never seen a mushroom ring, a fairy circle. And I just find that absolutely amazing because they were always in my life. I've always had that type of magic in my life.
That's just so beautiful. It's amazing. Right, I've written it down. I've got to get a fairy from a windowsill. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing, that journey. And I love that so many of us were kind of, I guess, had our experiences kind of diminished or, made to feel like we kind of were making things up and that sort of thing. So it's actually really nice to hear how that was cultivated for you as well as a young child, and having, like you say, the magic of the fairies. And I guess this is that Irish background as well, which is beautiful. But I think that you had said with your journey, you really had a big experience that happened to you that kind of turned everything around for you, which was when you encountered a visit from Archangel Michael. And for those of you, and I didn't kind of say it at the beginning, right, is that you work very closely with the angels in all of the work that you do. So tell me how that came about with your visit from Archangel Michael.
I was probably in a really bad time in my life. And it's always interesting, Spirit will always pull you up and gift you things in times when you are heading right off the direction of your path.
Yes.
And I do believe that this is the reason why I actually saw Archangel Michael, I want to say in the flesh, because he was absolutely gorgeous. But at that time, I was very jealous. I was jealous of all my friends. They were all driving around in Mercedes. They all had big houses. I was in my little butter box at Rochdale. I was driving my little, Toyota Corolla, and I was going to my husband all the time, why can't we have this? Why can't we have that? Why can't we have that? Very negative energy.
Okay.
And the people that I were hanging around, they weren't spiritual people. They were very much, they claimed to be spiritual, actually. One even ran a spiritual shop. And we would just sit there and we'd just complain about life and whinge about other people. And it was very, very negative. It was like a season of maths. That's how I used to view my life.
Wow.
And
yeah.
I knew it wasn't going well, because I've been married to my husband now 30 years, which I'm very blessed for. But you all have these hiccups, right? And this was definitely a hiccup. Well, I was going to a channeling evening and I was designated driver for that night, so I wasn't drinking. For some weird reason, they had cheese and wine at this spiritual channeling evening. This gentleman was channeling. We'd listen to him channel Metatron. We'd listen to him channel Gabrielle. And then I'm like going to the girls that I was meant to drive home. Come on, let's go. We were in a little tiny spiritual shop. It was tiny as it was really hot. It was filled to the max, because I can remember some real estate agent thought it would be a good team building. So we had all these real estate people in the room, which didn't really equate.
Okay.
I don't understand that either. But anyway, I was standing towards the back of the door because it was so hot. And they're like, no, he's going to do Michael next. He's going to do Michael. We want to stay for Michael. And I'm like, okay. So I'm standing at the back of the door and I'm listening to this channel through Michael. And as I'm standing, I should say, because I was at the back of the room, I'm looking at this channel's face. And his face kept going black, right? So it would shift and change and go black. And I'm like, what's going wrong with my eyes? Like, I'm not drinking. Why can't I focus in on this guy's
Yes.
face? It was freaking me out a little bit. And then the channel, as Archangel Michael said, I know there's questions in the room. Ask the questions. And well, of course, dead silence. No one said a thing. So me, being Miss Smartass, said, how do you fit your wings inside that fat little body there of the channeler? I always assume I can call other people large or cuddly, because I am. And Michael laughed and explained how wings are only shown to humans so that they can relax and understand that they are an angel. They are talking with an angel. It's a heavenly messenger. And then as I'm watching, I could feel heat start to go up through my feet, through the soles of my feet. And it was like having a mega hot flush. Never had a hot flush in my life, but it felt like a volcano. Heat just rushed out through the top of my head. And this angel stepped out of the channeler's body, filled the whole room. He was magnificent. He has gorgeous long hair, the most piercing blue eyes, the most gorgeous, lovely square jaw. And he just spoke to me one-on-one. And I said in front of this room full of people, oh my God, I can see you.
Wow.
I was so transfixed. I could not take my eyes off of him. He was
Yeah,
just beautiful. And you could just feel his energy and the love pouring out of him. And I said to him, I've always been told about you, but why am I seeing you? Why am I seeing you now? And he
Yes.
said to me, because you have to see to believe, Kathy, and you really have to start believing now. And then, boom, he just exited the channeler. Of course, I was like flying high for the next couple of weeks. I was telling everyone, from the mailman to the chick at the newsagent, I saw an angel. I'm so blessed. It's amazing.
Wow.
My life is fantastic. And then little did I know that he was very right. I am a person, and even in this industry, I do tend to need to see it, touch it, feel it, sense it, believe it
Yes.
before I will take it on. And I believe everyone should do that. But
Yeah.
then 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with cancer in my left breast. So
Wow.
that was a huge start of a very turned up spiritual journey. So for the next 12 months, it was like they just turned the dial up. And I was talking to Archangel Michael and Raphael every single day. They were with me. I was introduced to my own spiritual team, my own angels and my own guides.
Wow.
I had them around me all the time through every test. When I'm in the MRI machines, they're telling me to lie still. The guys
Oh,
are
I've got
saying,
goosebumps.
they're saying, we can tell you're lying still, but we can just pick up all this movement and energy in this machine. I would always ask my angels to come with me with every test. And I could
Yes.
see all the beautiful colors, all the beautiful twinkles, all the beautiful energy all around me. And it was them that was moving for all these tests. And in hospital at night, when I was scared, I'd look up at the roof, just a rainbow of colors. It was just, you never were alone. It was just
Wow.
beautiful. And dead people, I was seeing dead people everywhere. Big, and to a degree, I'd never seen them before like that. I'd
Yes.
always seen them when they used to come to me in dreams at night, because as you
Yeah.
know, when you get into that frequency.
Yeah.
But during the day, I'd walk into my hospital room, there'd be a guy there, and I'd be like, what are you doing in my room? And he'd be like, what are you talking about? It's my room. And I'd be having an argument with this, what I saw as a person. And then
Yes.
the nurse would walk in and go, who are you talking to? And I'd go, this strip with the floral Hawaiian shirt. And she'd be like, describe what he looks like. And I'd describe this person I'm talking to. She's like, he passed away in this bed last night. So it was then that I knew things were changing for the better. I always knew I'd get well. I always knew I had my spiritual team working with me with my doctors. And I lost a lot of
Yes.
friends in that period because a
Wow.
lot of my new age friends said I should have cured myself. Hell no. I've got an 8-year-old daughter. I'm going to take everything that is suggested to me to make sure I
Yeah.
stay here. And even my oncologist, she said, I know you're one of these wacky woo people, but you're not allowed to take anything except for what I give you, which is fair. But she did not believe in anything. But the things that I used to tell her, you could just tell she was in shock, because
Yeah.
they would say to me, tell her this, or congratulate her on her pregnancy, or, and things like that. And she'd be like, how do you know this? So
Yeah.
it was like I was getting confirmations all the way through. And I think it helped me with all of my treatment. She
Yeah.
said I did the best. She said we've never had someone who's just breezed it through so well. And I said that's because I had my spiritual as well as my medical. And she just went, okay, whatever, because she's very scientific. But
Yes. It's all about
yeah,
balance, isn't it? That's it is, isn't it? And that's another perfect example of where you can balance the medical with the spiritual. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
and it doesn't have to be extreme that you have to choose one of or the other.
And I'm not saying it's you can't choose that. If you really
Yeah.
feel like you think you can heal yourself and you're
Yeah.
on that path, I congratulate. And I've met many women who have.
Yes.
It just wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. And
Yeah.
I think when people start to understand you have to let other people choose their path in a way, it's
100%.
great to advise to if given, asked, but everyone has their own path and we all have to learn how to do it, and we have to do it in our own way.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I love that. And we can take guidance and we can give advice, right? But it's up to other people, and this is where the judgment comes in, isn't it? Where people, like you said, interestingly, which is what I said earlier, right? You kind of think you've met your people because now I'm in this like spiritual space and everybody's like, love and light, and we're all on the same path. And then, then it's a bit like, oh, okay, where did those people go? Where did they go? Yeah, super, super interesting. And thank you so much for sharing, that journey of how you felt as well, going through such a a big transition. Find out you've got breast cancer is no easy feat, right? And then to know that you're supported in a different way is absolutely beautiful. It really is. So thank you so much for sharing that journey. And as someone else that might be listening that's going through something medical, something like this, it's really about leaning in, isn't it? And trusting yourself and trusting the support around you and that kind of thing as well. Yeah.
And as you and I know, gut instinct is a lot to do with your spiritual connection. So I kept being told by Michael that there was more than 3 tumours in my breast. And I did tell my surgeon, Dr. Wilkinson, beautiful man, sadly has retired. And he was very spiritual, so he was very open. And they did actually find 4. So he said, when we go in, we'll make sure we have a good look around in there. And he did. He found 4. I can remember my surgery was the day after the cricketer's wife died. Sorry, her name escaped me. And so all the newspapers were off the ward on that day. No one was talking about anything. It was always trying to be upbeat. And he came in and he held my hand and he said, Kath, we took 85 lymph nodes and 79 of them were cancerous. So we have to send you for a full body scan because they're expecting it to be, So me getting emotional 17 years later. But no, what they did find, which was another reason why I believe this was spiritually connected, is they found that I had a huge cyst in my stomach. I called him Cyril. He was 8.5 kilos. So they had to then, so it was really more endometriosis that had built up within my system. So they then had to put me in for, this would have been my 3rd surgery, so to remove that. And that was something like, because they did a keyhole, which was amazing. Again, a brilliant minds. That was like 20 hours. So that was more recovery for me to do. So spirit took me out of my everyday life, by the way. You always think, oh, my friends will be there for me. Whoosh, gone like the wind. My true friends were there for me in that period. And then I had 12 months in which I could actually sit, meditate every day with Archangel Michael and really see how far you can go with this beautiful, I like to refer to it as magic.
It's easy for us to fall into the, why is this happening to me? That kind of mindset when things go wrong. But being able to look at this and think, okay, this is my journey. What is it that I need to know? What do I need to do? And trusting that moving forward as well. I think it 100% does move you to the place you need to be. I guess through your diagnosis and having all of this time, to connect to spirit. And I'm assuming that's when kind of everything accelerated for you, and the fork in the road and the redirection that kind of took you where you are now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was beautiful. It was like they just made sure I had everything I needed. I was shown the best way to go. I definitely received the best signals, the best signs. I had the right people around me. So that's exactly right. And then when I moved down to the Gold Coast, because I shifted down here because I moved from my house because I was in Brisbane when I had cancer. I didn't want to return to that house. I didn't want that energy. So my husband got a job promotion and I went to live in Bribie for about, I think, 9 years. It was interesting that Bribie was the choice because Bribie, there's a lot of breast cancer survivors up there, but Indigenous people used to go to Bribie to get well, to heal. And it's not a place where you should live constantly. It's a place where you should be very much in and out because they have the good sea animals for food. They have the good wildlife on the island. It was a place where you would go and get nice and healthy and fat, restock, and then you could move on. So then I moved down the Gold Coast, and I always thought I'd never live down the Gold Coast, but I love it. I'm in the hinterlands and I absolutely love it. But it was here where it's kind of just gone, because I'm at the right stage of my life now. I mean, I no longer have a little child to look after. She's a grown adult, and it's just myself and my husband. And so I get to spend all that beautiful time talking with my spiritual team as well as helping people with grief. So that's just how I see that's what I'm meant to be doing. As I'm sure you found out what you're meant to be doing.
Yes. It's crazy when I think about the timeline. Like, I actually, most of my jobs I had like long term, like I'm always someone that's kind of puts roots down at places, but I was always a person that like had to train the new people. Actually, even when I left school, I wanted to teach in nursery school, like kindergarten, and that's what I started doing. So even from like schooling, that's where I ended up. I ended up in a completely different place, but I would do a lot of teaching and training people and things like that. And so it's actually quite interesting that it's gone full circle, and here I am teaching just something completely different to what I thought that I would ever teach.
It's great. You really enjoy life, and when we get our lessons, everyone still gets lessons. I mean, I still get lessons.
Oh,
They're not
yeah.
as full on because
Yes.
you are happy within self. You know your own wants, needs, desires. You can work
Yeah.
with it, and
Yeah.
if you've got questions, you just go straight to the top source. There's no this mucking around. You just go
Yeah.
straight to your connection, because everyone's got their
Yeah.
beautiful angels, and you can call in ascended masters, you can call in archangels.
Yes.
Basically, I just see them as all these beautiful angels up there that are not being talked to. So, chalk up your angels. Don't think you just have to. No one's got just one. We've all got more than one, I can tell you right now. And you can
Right.
just continue to
Yeah.
move.
I have got a bit of a story about an angel, but it is a full podcast story. But I have had a visitation from a baby angel, which was
Aw.
actually beautiful, and it's a big story and a very big connection for me in my life. But that'll come on another podcast episode. But actually, recently, interestingly, when I was in meditation a few days ago, was it last week? I actually had Archangel Ariel come in to my spirit team. I've had a little bit of work. I've done some work with Princess Isis. So when I first actually stepped into this space, she was someone that came through for me. I was actually lying in bed this one night, and it was almost like I felt like a wing come across the top of my head. Like it was so close that it like wished my hair. And I was like, what was that, and who are you? And at the time it was Isis that came in, so she actually come in, and I have a big connection with her. And what I find with mine is they kind of pop in and out a little bit, maybe because I don't work directly with them. But yeah, so Ariel came in the other day, and she kind of come into my little circle. So I'm like, what are you here for? What are you guiding me for? So I'm just getting little snippets from her of what she's here to, what lesson she is here to give me, which is beautiful, which I think maybe takes me on to, so you've just said there's so many angels up there that are waiting for you to connect. So if anyone is listening to this, what is an easy way that they could start to work with the angels?
Basically, you have to invite them in. Like
Okay.
you have. I always see like a head or a main guardian angel with everyone when I do readings. They're the person that they've connected with before they came down here and said, "Can you keep me on my track for my book of life?" And they've gone, "Yeah, sure," which is a huge commitment, because as you know, we can live for a long time or a short time.
Yeah.
But then you have all your other angels. So there are many different angels that can be called in for different times of your different life. If you need help with
Yes.
work related things or study or different things like that, you can ask for help with angels. Simplest way to do it is just say in your mind, you don't have to talk out loud. You don't have to tell everyone in the world you're talking to angels, no billboards required. You can just say, "Angels, I want you in my life." Please ask them for a sign so that you know that they're with their life. All these people say, "Oh, I never see signs." You have to tell them what you want, and you have to tell
Yes.
them how long they've got. So you've got to say to them, "I want to find," oh, let's just say, "I want to find a white feather, and I want to find it within the next 24 hours. I
Okay.
want to find a
Yeah.
heart-shaped rock on the beach as I walk every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I want to find it within the next week." So then those angels, they're like going, "Okay, she really wants a sign, so she knows we're in our life," and you will find that sign. I'm telling you, you will find that sign. They're so quick. I mean, I'm really quite mean with my angels. I ask for hard signs. So I can remember when my husband was going for a job, I said to him a couple of years ago, I said, "Oh, you're going to get headhunted for a job, and you're going to get a job, and it's really close, and it's no more," because he used to travel a lot, and I
Yes.
hated it. And he's like, "Yeah, right, sure." And I said, "I think you're going to get a job with Tip Top Bakery." And he went, Yeah, right, Kath, right. And I said, I'm going to find out. I was traveling to Brisbane that day to see my parents. And I said to my angels, I want to see 3 tip-top trucks going up and 3 tip-top trucks coming back. I asked them that on that day. I got it. And then, of course, he got headhunted. He got approached by some outdoor, I don't know how they do it nowadays. Some
Yeah.
other company finds you and connects with you.
Yeah.
And he went for a job interview. I mean, it's awesome. 2.8 kilometers away from home. I love it.
Wow.
And then he said, oh, I'm not going to get that. I said, you're going to get that. You're going to get told before Christmas. You're going to have that job before the end of the year. He's like, don't be stupid. He's like, everything shuts down at Christmas. Anyway, I kept saying to angels, I want to see these tip-top trucks. I want to see these tip. And all the time, I saw these tip-top trucks, 3 going up, 3 coming back. It was just amazing. He's
Wow.
got the job. He's been there for a year. Do I ever see tip-top trucks?
Never. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So they really do come through.
Yes. Yeah. So start with something easy is what you're saying. Build the trust a little bit easier. Yeah. Beautiful. And I think that with angels, certainly with me, is like I do have one particular guide that is also an angel that sort of sits in my team, and she's almost like maybe she is more fair than she is angel. And now I think about it, because she's got more, I actually call her like my inner child. Like she has got, like she comes in for me when I know that I'm in too much like analytical, like that I haven't given myself some fun for a while, and then she tends to turn up a little bit stronger around that time. Kind of, she's quite like, you know, kind of has that vitality about her and playfulness, I guess, as well. And I know some people don't believe that, oh, your inner child would be like, she just brings me that she's the reminder for that for me. And I think it's important, you know, that there's no rules and regulations over who your spirit team are, you know, what they're here to do. It's all very individual for each person. I got my English right. Each person, you know, people have ideas, I think, and it's okay, but I think it's important that we say, you know, whatever is working for you. Some people believe you've got hundreds of guides. Some people believe you've got one guide, you know, yeah. But you said that you believe that there's one main angel, right?
Yes, one main guardian angel to keep you on track. And of course, that would be mean to keep them working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So, of course, there are other angels that are there to help you.
The outsourcing angels. Yes.
We all deserve holidays. Come on.
We do. Now I'm curious because I want to find out who my main angel is.
I've got a lovely meditation on my website you can do for that.
Ooh, well, if anyone is listening, because Kathy's links are all going to be on this show notes. So let's put a link to that here in case anybody else would like to go and do this meditation to find out who their main angel is. I'd love that. And I think wrapping it up, I'd love to talk to you about your book. And, you know, I know this podcast episode was to talk about this, but I've loved that we've just kind of gone off in every direction and just organically took the conversation where it needs to go, which I always love.
Right.
So yay, yes, of course. So, you know, your book, The Afterlife Mentor, is now out. I'm guessing you can get it on places like Amazon.
That's right.
Yes. And we also will have the link for that here in the show notes as well if you want to grab that. And I guess tell me why you felt like you wanted to, you know, bring this book to the people. What were you hoping that people would gain by, you know, like grabbing a copy of this book?
I'll tell you right now, I was not excited about writing this book, but it was my angels that started waking me up at 5 o'clock every morning.
Okay.
And I'm not a morning person. 7 o'clock is when I get up. So I would wake up at 5 and I would hear different, in my head, they're talking to me and they're telling me all of the different chapters that should be in the book. And I'm hearing, write it down. Mm-hmm. I basically, because after a week of being woken up at 5 o'clock every morning, you can't say, go away to your angels. Maybe I'm not that polite either sometimes early in the morning. So I basically came out, and my husband thought it was hilarious because he gets up early and he'd see me. I'd be up before him and I'd just be sitting in front of the laptop. Basically, I believe it was automatically written because
yes.
I really don't recall it when I read it. I go, oh, wow, I put that in it. Wow. So I do believe it was more of a conjunction, but you can't put an Archangel Michael as an author.
Yes.
So
credit to.
So they have helped me get my story. I didn't want to tell my story. I was quite embarrassed of my story. I was embarrassed I got cancer. I was embarrassed that I was going down such a bad way. I was embarrassed. I'm a big-chested girl. I didn't like telling people I had breast cancer. Now when men look at my loppy boobs, I always go, oh, can you tell which one had theatre? Now I don't care. But that was the old me. So it took me a long time to tell my story. It took me a long time to speak about my childhood. I didn't want to share that with people. But now that I have, it's like it's lifted. I feel good about it. I'm not like, and sometimes you feel like you're a dirty little secret. Like everyone used to come to you at work and say, oh, am I going to get the job opportunity? Is my course going to come in on Saturday? What am I having a boy or a girl? You remember that working in places because people got to know you, got to know stuff. And being in the bank, I was in sales. I used to do really well because you could tell when people were lying to you. You just knew. Read their energy when people were lying to you, and you just knew, oh no, they've got a stack of money here and a stack of money over in that other bank account, so you could talk them in. And my sales I was always on target. I did really well at any type of sales position. But it's not what you were meant to be using it for, right? So I didn't want to share a lot that was in that book, and I found it really hard to read the first time when it came out, but I'm really glad I did it. And I don't market it, which is really bad, I know, but I don't know much about marketing on Amazon and things like that. That's technology. And I'm always surprised that every month people are still buying it. And I get beautiful emails from all over the world of people telling me how much it's helped their mother or helped their friend or helped themselves. And I just think that's the win. So I'm really glad that I did get it published. And in saying that, again, Angels Helping You had a beautiful friend who did the cover for me, had an amazing editor who used to live in Australia, and she did the editing for me. She lives over in Italy. All of these beautiful people came together to help me get that book out. So to me, that meant
divinely guided. Yeah, how beautiful is that? And wow, I mean, even like a book, it feels like such a big thing, doesn't it? And I think the fact that what you're saying is that feeling embarrassed about talking about things or telling your story and that sort of stuff, so many people resonate with that because so many people, like, we all have unique experiences, we all have things that we can share that will help other people, but we have to really get past our own stuff first, don't we, to be able to get it out there. And also, this is the breadcrumbs from spirit that I constantly bang on about, when we're guided, when we're getting woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, like, to do something. I know even with my Bali retreat that I'm doing this year, like last year I had the download like about doing even this podcast, right? And it was like, you need to do that, you need to do it. But, you sit on it, right? Because you sit on it because you have to clear up your stuff, your ceiling that you have to move through to be able to get to that next phase, to then be able to get that kind of stuff in front of people. And I love that you managed to do that, because many people don't. Many people sit with a lot of things that they want to achieve and they want to do, and they never do it, especially a book. The amount of people that I meet that I say, oh my gosh, you need to write a book. And they're like, oh, no, I never write
hard
a book.
work.
I never write a book.
It is really hard work. I cannot believe how many times I had to read that book.
Yes. But thank you so much for sharing that. And we will actually pop the link for the book if anyone wants to grab it from Amazon here and hear more of your story and your journey of how you came to work with angels. Your business is Angel Connections, which I absolutely love and adore. So if anyone wants to connect with Kathy, all of her details will be here. And I just wanted to thank you so much for coming today, sharing your story with people, with me, and being here and bringing your beautiful energy. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a wonderful chat.
It
It's been so nice to
has.
catch up.
I know, it has, definitely, for sure. Thank you so much, Kathy. I will speak to you soon. All
Yeah.
right. Bye for
Bye.
now. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to Diary of a Medium, Stories from the Spirit World. If something in today's episode has sparked something within you and you are curious about your own spiritual gifts, then check out my website on how I can support you. If you have your own story to share, then please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to support me, you can subscribe, leave a review, or simply share this with a friend. So until next time, trust yourself, trust spirit, and keep listening to the whispers from the universe. Bye for now.